In this podcast, we chat about the win against Blackburn, Carrick's tenure so far, look ahead to Birmingham, and answer your podcast questions. This is the Boro Breakdown podcast, and this is our Boro Matchday Chatter in a pod.
Wants support. Curtis Fleming is there on the edge of the area. Fleming for Craig Hignett. Hit it, Higgy. Higgy hits the treble!
Ravanelli coming alive again. Janino wants the ball played to him. Ravanelli spots out Emerson!
Hello and welcome to the Boro Breakdown podcast with Jonny and Tom. We are the Boro podcast that gives you all of your Boro Matchday Chatter in a podcast. And Middlesbrough Football Club end the year in the playoff places with sixth place and with a win against Blackburn Rovers. We would be with Dana as well, but the Wi-Fi and Laserby doesn't exist anymore. But shout out to Dana because she might join us, she might not. Who knows? It's the end of the year podcast. But Tom, we're in the playoffs. You didn't go to the game. We watched it, but you were there. Dana was there, but she's not here. Kind of feels a little bit like Scotty. And obviously no one's going to get that apart from me and you. But how are you feeling in 3 words? Because, wow, we are in the playoffs. Amazing. Unreal.
We're going up, is my 3 words. No, just buzzing to be fair, like getting into the playoffs from the last game of 2022. It's not something I thought looked likely from the position we were in when Carrick took us over, and I was very prepared to give him time, and this was going to be kind of a project where it was probably going to take a little bit of time to get going, but him and the coaching team really hit the ground running. I think turned the players around and really shows the quality that we already had in the squad. I think, like we were saying in the last few podcasts under Chris Wilder, like these players don't suddenly turn bad overnight. Like it's something to do with the coaching, it's something to do with the players not being drilled. And I think Carrick has just shown what can be done with this team.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll probably come to that a little bit later on in terms of potential some changes that we have seen. I think there's going to be something more in depth that we're going to upload over the next couple of days or over the next week. But in terms of my 3 words and where we're at right now, I think it's probably the same words that I said in the last podcast. We'll go on Sizzler because, it's another win, playoff places. The table, of course, is so tight, but you've got to enjoy these moments when you're back in the playoffs. And like you were saying there, Tom, start of the season, playoffs automatics was kind of the target for the year, and it's nice to be back in there as we come to the end of 2022. But 2023 could be very exciting, but you never know with Boro. So I'm just going to enjoy this moment as we can. We'll go on Sizzler, but who knows in the next few games where we'll end up. But let's chat about Blackburn then, because it was the reverse result as it was at the Riverside. Gallagher didn't score. The curse of Sam Gallagher is now finished.
Well, yeah, I had money on it, so it was obvious that he wasn't going to score.
That's what I was thinking as well. I put the daft pound. I put the daft pound on, and I thought £1 gets me £4 back. That'll get me £0.75 of a pound more on the bun at the ground when I next score. So that might work out. But yeah, it didn't happen, and we were absolutely buzzing that it didn't. Dana was there, but she didn't make. She hasn't made the pod just yet, but she might. You never know. Who knows? This could be the Royal Rumble of the podcast.
She's going to appear like the Undertaker halfway through, isn't she?
Yeah. She'll come in at like the 21st minute or something, and then like just say what she needs to say and leaves, or wins the whole thing. Who knows? But Tom, we watched the game, and there was a lot to take from it, and I just wanted to hear your thoughts on the overall performance.
I thought it was pretty much a game of 2 halves. I think we looked a lot better in the second than we did in the first. I think Blackburn did have the chances in the first, but they were creating most of it from long balls, which I thought was quite funny because I was watching it with the Blackburn commentary on, and they seemed to think they actually compared themselves to Prime Arsenal at one point. And I was like, okay. Are you watching the same game? Because they seem to think we were the ones on the counter-attack and they were like playing pretty football, despite the fact that they were playing long ball. And we had felt like we had most of the possession. But obviously they took their chance with the first goal. Unfortunately, every camera angle can't confirm if that was actually offside or not, although Carrick thought it was after the game. And going into half time, I think we'd had a couple of chances, but I was like, we really need to turn it around. But I think that's kind of showing a bit of a change under Carrick, because we went into half time and I was believing that Carrick could turn it around. I was thinking, he's going to go in there, tell the players where they're going wrong, and kind of where to improve. And it didn't take long at all in the second half to get our first goal. And although there was a sending off, I did think that even without that, we were probably going to go on and get another. So I think it was a deserved win for us, despite what the Blackburn commentary team thought. But I thought we did start the first half quite slowly, and just kind of grew into the game from there, really.
Yeah, and to be honest, Tom, I don't think we played bad in that first half either. And it felt for me that the final ball just wasn't there, or it was like a poor mistake, it's like a mistake, like a decision-making mistake in key moments, like Force, where he could have played the ball across the box in the first half, where he took the extra touch and pulled himself away. He did break down the line as well and took an extra touch again. So it was like individual decision making, which it's you see it in football. No football is perfect, and they'll make these types of decisions, and you got to go with it from there. Nothing your manager can do it in that moment. But as the game progressed, like you're saying, we did grow into it. We had some good opportunities in second half again, to come out in score within 30 seconds to get the winner and to have a much more controlled performance and to see where we are now. It's fantastic to see. But what do you think Carrick did at halftime? Because you did allude to it ever so slightly, saying he can come in and change this. What do you think he did at halftime?
I think it's just highlighting areas where we're going wrong, and I think the reason I think that is because of the training videos that Boro have put out, where he's kind of like stopping games and kind of, just doing his job, really coaching. And
well done, Michael. You are doing your job. Well done. Congratulations.
I think it's just that, though. I think whereas you might have a manager's approach under, like, say, Wilder or Warnock, where they can go in and like scream at the team and stuff like that and try and get a reaction out of them in the second half. I personally think that it'd be Carrick kind of saying, look, kind of like the Mikel Arteta approach that you see on Arsenal All or Nothing, where he's just kind of highlighting areas to improve and saying, right, go out there and do that. I think that's more Carrick's approach. Obviously, we don't know, because we don't know what happens behind closed doors in the dressing room. But personally, I get that sort of impression that he's not going to be one who's going in there and screaming at the players and looking to get a reaction that way. I think it's going to be more, coaching the players and saying, go out there, do this instead. We're going wrong here. Try not to do this, and we'll go out and kind of take that message on board.
Yeah, and I think with Carrick so far as well, it hasn't been a wholesale changes in terms of how we play, in terms of how we set up, or the style of football that we do. Appreciate that there's been a video circulating on Twitter saying we're like Barcelona, Man City, Sir Alex Ferguson, United, with Louis van Gaal and Sir Alf Ramsey, and Claudio Ranieri and the guy from Little Chef. We have all those philosophies into one, and have this unique style, and that is just not the case. And we will do a much more in-depth video on that probably over the next couple of days. But for me, it's just a case of being fine tweaks when we look at the system and how we play and how we set up in like a 4, but it's also a 3 at the back. Very similar to under Wilder. The pass and play is still very similar under Wilder. The difference is under Carrick, the small tweaks that we're having is we play a lot more now in our own defensive third than we did under Wilder. And our passing completion is improving because we're playing in a much safer areas to try and build up, to bring teams into us so we can play through the press and try and get in behind, which is a little bit different from what we were doing under Wilder, where his movement was all about that midfield and trying to get the combinations to get the ball out wide a little bit quicker. But more of that in the future. But in terms of Boro's second half, it was an eventful one. You know, Boro coming back, a red card. But I want to go on the first goal first, Tom, because 2-2 for Marcus Forss. He's not finished. He's our goal scorer, but it's starting to get his confidence in front of goal. Now he's starting to score, and he's a bit of a fox in the box again.
Yeah, definitely. It was a great strike, that as well. But that actually moved faster than the camera on TV. So I didn't know if it had gone in or not. I thought it might have just hit the side net. And then next thing you know, the ball's in the back of the net. It was like an ice hockey goal or something. You just don't see it happen. And then it's suddenly there. But yeah, great shot. I think I read something from Boro this morning saying everyone had touched the ball in the build-up to that, which is exactly what you want to see when you're playing possession football. Great ball around the outside from Crooks to lay it off for Force. And yeah, it's great for him to get the goal, especially, there was a bit made of it in the last few games where, well, probably like the last 10 games or so, where Akpom's been getting the goals and Force has been there, but not exactly scoring. Like, he had that penalty against Blackpool. He does contribute to the team, obviously, or he wouldn't be playing, but I think there was a few people asking, like, would you think he's good not to get among the goals like Akpom is? And now it's the other way around. I think that was that the first game where Akpom didn't score, or
no? Burnley as well was another one.
Yeah.
But the record that Akpom has is still fantastic. He's still contributing to the team. Like, he doesn't have to score every game. He doesn't have to contribute every game. But his numbers and Boro's numbers, for that matter, have been excellent under Carrick. We're really out overperforming in our XG now in comparison to what we did under Wilder, where we were severely underperforming. So weirdly balancing out, isn't it? But yeah, sorry, go on. You were saying.
I was just saying he's probably got the confidence back up now from getting in amongst the goals the last couple of games, and I think now that he's got that first couple, touch wood because I don't want to jinx him, he'll probably go on to get more now. He's getting into the right positions to do it, and I thought against Blackburn as well, first half playing on the right hand side, I didn't think he was having a particularly good game. It was an unfamiliar role, and I think what was being asked of him wasn't particularly playing to his strengths. I thought he had a good delivery on the couple of times where he was able to cross it, but he's not the type of player who's can really beat the man on the wing. So I felt a bit bad for him at that point, but then he's come straight back out after the break and got a goal and assist straight away. So fair play for him for excelling in that role, especially in the second half.
Yeah, definitely. And with Force on that right hand side, if we're looking back at previous regimes and what we've done under Carrick, where Stuani was on that right hand side, and the reason why sometimes you see forwards on that right hand side is due to trying to get in the back post and get your striker win. Obviously all good strikers have that diagonal run. You'll see it from time to time again. Probably seen in the last game under against Wigan, where Akpom came in from probably that right hand side into a more of a central area and put the finisher away and got his finisher win. With same with Force, like, it can happen with him. I think Boro's aim was to try and get that ball on the left hand side, get the ball over, and give it to if Crooks missed it, Force is there behind him as well. But it was an unfamiliar role for him. But again, scored, and then a red card happened, Tom. Silly red card, but do you think it actually was a bit harsh? I don't know.
No, it could have killed him. They obviously appealed yesterday, and it got turned down. And I think their manager put it perfectly that he's a young player. Doing that type of thing would probably stop with experience, but you never give the referee a decision to make. And I mean, in fairness, the referee didn't even look like he saw it. That decision looked like it came from the fourth official who did see it. But I don't know, with all the stuff, particularly around head injuries now, anything like that in like rugby league, that would be a yellow card, even if it is just kind of like, messing around and you're still throwing a ball at someone's head. I think you'd be fuming if it happened to a Boro player. and especially, looking at the appeal, like getting turned down, and it's been, he's been suspended for 3 games, but I do think with the stuff around head injuries in particular, that's probably played a bit of a role there. And although it was quite a soft throw, it's still towards the head. So what can you do?
Yeah, he gave the referee a decision to make, didn't he? And I don't know why you would do it. It's just such poor game management, isn't it? It's easy to get wound up on a football pitch. Everyone can get wound up and lash out, or make a poor emotional decision on it. We're humans, like we're not robots, are we? So unless, I don't know, there is some robots out there like Haaland who just can't stop scoring. Which, see, I don't think anyone would watching this be going, yeah, he's probably a robot.
Yeah, I knew there was something up with him.
Yeah, it was just the spark out of his eyes, you know what I mean? Just like coming out in the Leeds game, and the wires come out of his ear. But it's just a poor decision, and the game did change. Boro got more possession of the ball, and we punished them with the second goal. And I want to break down the second goal because it's a really good goal from Boro, to be honest, and it's also poor from a defensive mark on for Blackburn as well. So we do get the ball with Lenihan. He gets it, and there's 2 decisions he can make here straight away. He can either play the short ball at Hackney, or he can get Riley McGree on the half-turn where he's in a bit of space. He chooses the latter, and it's a much more riskier ball to play through to McGree on the half-turn, and he does it really, really well. And it takes Bradley Dack out the game. And Boro on the attack here. So when McGree's on that half turn, he looks to get the ball out wide. And this is where Boro tried to stretch teams because you're bringing all of your defence over to the left-hand side. So when people are defending and you are defending that shape, you don't want to be too stretched out. You want to be fairly compact in those central areas. And when Boro do get the ball, you can see Boro are looking to keep playing and trying to recycle the play. And Crooks has it on that left-hand side. He checks back and then gives it to Hayden Hackney. And on the right-hand side of play, Marcus Force is putting his hand up. He's asking for the ball already from Crooks, but he doesn't. Boro delay, and as Blackburn are starting to come out of come and put the press towards the edge of the box, Hackney gets the ball, and he looks and plays a lovely darting ball over to Marcus Force. And this is where it's really interesting because Riley McGree is still in enough space in the central area. Bradley Dack is still there. Tyler Morton is there as well. And these are the 2 players, Dack and Morton, which will be kicking themselves for it. Because when the ball comes over from Hackney, McGree makes his run. As Morton and Dack come out, they completely miss Riley McGree's run into the central area of the box. And McGree has just got all the time in the world. He doesn't even have to volley. He could have probably took it down and had a strike. He had that much time, but it's a lovely, lovely volley, a lovely cushion header from Force, and Boro go 2-1 up. And to be fair to Riley McGree, he's going to have such a good collection of goals when he retires. Like if he shows that to his grandkids or something, they're going to think he's probably one of the best players ever to ever lived. And like it's quite similar to Olivier Giroud. Like his highlight reel is just amazing, and he is actually an amazing footballer. But like, if you just looked at him on his highlight reel, you'd be like, "Wow, he's like one of the best players to have ever lived." Even though he has pretty much won everything in football. But overall, a really, really good goal from Boro. Blackburn, defensively wise, the shape of the back line is still good. It's just the tracking back, the dedication, and just a bit of bad decision making, which would give Boro the space, but also really good play from Boro to get the ball out wide, to try and stretch the team, to bring everyone over to that one side, and leave Force on that right hand side to cushion in and Boro to score. And Boro took all 3 points. So that ended the year then with Boro going into the playoff places. And Michael Carrick has had a really good start. 9 games. 6 wins, 1 draw, and 2 defeats. And in comparison to Chris Wilder, his predecessor, we see in a tweet from Borley 86, and he says Wilder and Carrick starts remarkably similar. Early defeats at Preston, late December away win turnarounds, 2-1 turnarounds, and a catchy tune as well. So Wilder had played 9, won 6, drawn 2, with 12 goals and 6 against and 20 points. Carrick, on the other hand, has got 19 points from the 6 wins, the 1 draw. Boro have scored 19 goals and conceded 11. So very similar, but we can dissect all of this in a later date. But Tom, you must be happy with Carrick's tenure so far, right?
Well, yeah, absolutely. He's got us playing like Barcelona, hasn't he? So
Man City, the chef from
Fergie,
the Little
like...
Chef.
Yeah,
Loads.
I mean, really happy with it. Like I said earlier, I think he's showing what these players are actually capable of. I think any time we go on a bit of a bad run, and especially as bad a run as we had at the start of the season, I think there is a tendency to kind of like write us off completely and be like, oh, we're nothing more than a mid-table team and stuff like that. This team was built this year with the aim of top six. You can tell that. You don't bring in Zach Steffen, Ryan Giles, etc. if you go in for a mid-table finish. You wouldn't spend all that money on those players if that's what you're trying to do. And I think as you said earlier, there are some similarities between what Carrick is doing and what we had under Wilder tactically, but there's some differences as well. I think they're working quite well for us. I think playing out from the back was never something we particularly did a lot of under Wilder. I think we did have more of an emphasis on distribution, especially this season with Zach Steffen, but it was more trying to pick out either people on the wings or Matt Crooks in the middle of the field. Now it's generally the ball at his feet, trying to play through the press. And as Dana said on the last podcast, a lot of it relies on Howson and Hackney coming in, picking up on the half turn and distributing it out and beating that press. So it's good that... Well, it's fantastic what he's been able to do in terms of that in such a short space of time. And I think from the moment we had those kind of training videos where even though people were saying, oh, it's very basic stuff, but like Carrick stopping the games and talking them through it and talking what decisions they should be making, we've seen improvements in all the players since then. And I get the impression that that's the way to manage these players, not throwing individuals under the bus when 8 individual mistakes are made on the lead up to a goal and stuff like that, which was happening earlier in the season. I think even in the games we've lost, Carrick's found the reasons and has been able to work from them, and being able to bounce back after that defeat of Burnley with the win against Wigan, and being able to go a goal down and come back and win. That's kind of showing the real togetherness and mentality of the squad. But then on the other side of things, you've seen massive improvements technically as well. So really happy with him so far.
Yeah, and me too as well. And the biggest differences I've seen, I think, and what he's done is something that we probably don't see as fans. And I think it's that behind the scenes, the group being together, having that feeling of being invincible again, having that arm around the shoulder, being treated as as people and individuals, and having different ways of managing the group, which I don't think we really had towards the back end of the previous regime at all, which is probably one of the reasons why we were starting to really underperform. And everyone knows that if you've got a bad boss, like, you don't really want to work as much for them. You know what I mean? It's a bit hard to do that and give you 100% for that. But Carrick's came in and he's really made inroads in trying to have that group and give them the confidence and the ability of like a safe environment. And we speak a lot about that with the Dan Abrahams podcast as well, which is, if you haven't listened to it, do give it a listen. And I think on that side, when you give players a confidence, and we've done the slight tweak in formation with the 4 and with 4-2-3-1, and that's just to help us on defensive transitions, because we were getting caught on the counter a little bit more. But when you look at Boro's shape, it's still very much a 3. When we're in possession of the football, the wingers were still going to get high. The passing the passing combinations are still very, very similar. Your forward in Akpom is coming a bit more central to create the diamonds. But again, like, those tweaks and refinements is exactly what Boro needed. Off the pitch, we need to be a tight group. The tweaks on the pitch, you can't change too much in 9-10 games or however many weeks he's had. It's going to be a long process. But also, I think what impresses me with not just with Carrick, but the club. This is the first iteration of this club identity and how we want to play as a football club, because we've went from so many different styles over the years, you know, from Karanka to Pulis to Warnock to like and Woodgate as well. Obviously, Woodgate trying to change style, then just having to revert to the Warnock way of playing, and then Wilder's styles Wilder's style has came in, and we've just built on that solid foundation. And we had a really good foundation over the last 18 months. We've been a possession-based side. You know, we like to use our wingers to try and get in behind. You know, the way we're creating chances. Still refinements in football is all about refinements with this group. You can't go from one philosophy to the next because you've got the same players and you can't change too much. And what he has done has really impressed me. We're where we should be at the moment. Can we continue to build on it? Who knows? I'm enjoying where we are right now, but I think Boro fans can go away with confidence over the January. If we bring in the right players, why not? Like, why not? Why can't we go for it? You know, why can't we hit the playoffs? But the defeats we've had, but Tom, like, you know, Preston first game, we shouldn't have really lost it. We kind of was right at the death. And the Burnley one, like, we weren't really expected to win that game. And also, we will still win ahead. It was 3 mistakes, which happens. And Burnley are on an absolute tear, and they should be up by April unless something drastic happens and they don't do it. But yeah, I think really impressive. I think for what we've done, and if you're impressed, or if there's anything that you're impressed with, if you're watching the video, let us know in the YouTube comments, or let us know on Twitter, or even let us know in our Telegram chat as well. But let's move on to podcast questions, because every week you give us the chance to ask us some questions via Twitter, via email at theborobreakdown@hotmail.com, or joining our Telegram chat where over 290 Boro fans chat everything but Boro. Sometimes Boro, sometimes tactics, but mainly Football Manager. And there's loads of different chats for you to get involved with. So do join. It's absolutely free if you want to. But also, if you don't like ads in this video, you can join our Patreon. It's $1.99 a month, and you get all ad-free content from us, exclusive stuff, and we'll even give you some discounts on some merch as well. But the first question is from John Mitchell, and he says, how concerning is the lack of width options? We've seen Watmore and McGree play on the left. Could you foresee Giles playing further forward and bringing us bringing in a left back to increase the depth on that side? Tom, what do you think? Do you think we can see Giles playing further forward?
I want to say no. You know, I'm concerned with the lack of options, because I think if Giles was to pick up an injury or get suspended or anything like that, I think we'd be fairly screwed on that left-hand side. But you know, I was on TalkSport yesterday, and they kind of asked us about the change in formation and what Carrick's done, and I summed it up as an asymmetrical 4-2-3-1. Which then my mate's group chat was like listening to that at the time, said, "Oh, someone's been playing Football Manager." But that is kind of how I see it, because Riley McGree, for me, does not play on the left-hand side. He plays as kind of like a number 10, but over on the left-hand side. And what that does is allows Giles to bomb up that left-hand side and use his strength, which is crossing. And, you know, McGree's there to give him the ball on the overlap. And also that's playing into McGree's strengths, where he can go more central and you know, create chances from there. And that's what Watmore did as well. Although Watmore was more cutting inside onto his right foot and kind of using his strengths, which was just running at people. But I think, like I say, if we were to miss Giles for whatever reason, I think we'd be fairly, you know, short on that side. So what I'd be interested in seeing is if we can recreate that formation on the right hand side as well. Maybe put Jones at right back and, you know, have Watmore as the McGree role or something like that, just to balance. But what Carrick's done with that formation for me is everyone's playing in a position where it really kind of plays to their strengths. I don't think we necessarily need another option in the McGree role on the left, as we can see that Watmore's played there as well, and we probably have other players who can play there. But I definitely want to see someone else at left wing back. I know we probably got Boro who can also do that, but I don't think he has the same skill set as Giles on that left hand side. So yeah, we need someone else with good delivery there for me.
Yeah, and I think when you were sitting around McGree as well, like he's still playing in the same areas as he has done all season. Really, it's just that nice little half space area which gives us the ability to get Giles up the pitch as well. And it'd be a concern if Giles did get injured, But I think I'm the same as you. Like I would like to see us bring in a bit more depth on the wings. Give Isaiah Jones competition because I think he needs it. And ball there for left back if we need to, but also like you were saying, if we can try and replicate it, then that's great. It gives us flexibility, and hopefully we can continue to do it. Next question is from Glenn. He says, "What's Hoppy's future role, if any?" The 21-year-old Tom, he's been limited to perform to game time. What do you think? Where do you think his future lies?
Well, he's only a development striker, isn't he? So
Yeah, he's only 21, right? So I mean,
yeah, I mean,
time.
where he's setting the question, their future role, if any, I think he definitely does have a future role. I get the impression that Force and Hoppy were both club signings rather than Wilder signings. I think that was fairly obvious from what Wilder was saying, and they're definitely like factored in to future thinking for the team for me. So I think Hoppy's future role would be up front, but I don't think there's any way you drop Force or Akpom at the moment and put Hoppy in. He's still in the first 6 months of his time here. He's played a few under 23s games. He's came off the bench a few times. There's still a lot of time for him to progress. And personally, I'm not worried about Hoppy not fitting future plans or anything like that. I think he's definitely going to get a run in the team eventually, and definitely going to come good. Actually, I wouldn't say definitely going to come good because that's probably, if I could see the future, then I wouldn't have bet on Sam Gallagher to score. But and like I say, he's a club signing, and I think he just kind of fits the long-term vision of what we're trying to do. So I can absolutely see him playing up front and getting a run of games at some point.
Yeah, same. I think probably will go out on loan though, probably in the January, and there's going to be players that probably not going to have a future, and we'll probably see them go over the next week or two. The next question from Jonathan, he says, "We gave away a few chances at Blackburn, and with better finishing, the result could have been different. Does our more possession-based approach concedes more chances, especially on the break, and how can we deal with that?" Possession stats wise, we actually had more possession under Chris Wilder, funny enough, based on the percentages that we've played this season. It was 50, it was very marginal. It's like 56-55 in favour of Wilder. In terms of how we play out from the back, we play much more in our defensive third, more than we under Carrick than we do under Chris Wilder, or we did under Chris Wilder, and especially on the break. Look, transitional defensive transition's always been a problem for Boro this year. It's getting better, but when you are playing that defensive third more, you are gonna, if you do make a mistake, the chances you give away are going to be a lot higher. So it's how you want to play it. I think it's just all about beating press and how aggressive you want to do it. Do you want to play through? Do you want to play it over? Very easy to say, but implementing is very difficult to do. But I think with that, we're going to concede chances. The way that we want to play is going to concede more. But that's why you've got to keep, and Stacks definitely hasn't gave away too much over the last few games. Now that I've said that, he'll have a game like Burnley and concede 50. But his goalkeeping has got a lot better under Carrick as well. But for me, actually, Tom, what do you think? What do you think? How can we deal with it?
Well, I think it's like you say, when we're trying to play out from the back, occasionally you will make a mistake and someone will get a chance from that. And I thought in the Wigan game, if they were a better team and better finishing, they could have punished us a couple of times. There was a header which I think went off the lad's head and then off his shoulder and out, but that was at the back post. And the other one where they kind of got through fairly early on, and it's straight at Zach Steffen. I think we're still a work in progress defensively, but I think once that familiarity gets going in defence and being able to play it out from the back, I don't think we're going to concede as many chances. That being said, I don't think there's a game where we can necessarily like not outscore the opposition as well. Not that I want us to be like relying on that, because I remember the game at the Riverside quite a while ago where we lost 4-3 to Swansea and came out there thinking, oh, such an entertaining game. And I was like, hang on, we didn't win. But I don't want us to be doing that anymore. But I think it's just going to come with familiarity. Like I say, the more we play this system, I think the less chances we are going to concede.
Okay, then. Well, let's move on to the praise and place then, Tom, because the praise and place is the place we like to give praise to. I don't know, Tom. Who should we give praise to today?
Not Dana's internet.
Not Dana's internet. So if you're anyone but Dana's internet, you could be in the praise and place today. But the first, I want to give us some fan praise and place, and one's from Ben. He says Carrick gets his place because team selection wasn't expected, and a few grumblings from fans at halftime, him included, but it's worked out. Drew said Carrick and Woodgate. He said they could have easily switched at halftime, but believed in the selection that paid dividends. Boro Boy says Force, and Mikey says Lenihan. But Tom, who gets your place in the praise and place?
So the last two there for me, Force and Lenihan. Force, I think, deservedly goes into the praise and place this week. 2 goals in 2 games, fantastic finish against Wigan, and then another one against Blackburn, like I say, which moved faster than the camera. So, it's good to see him getting among the goals now. Hopefully that continues. And then I think Dana picked up on this on the last podcast, but Lenihan keeps getting better every game. He took over as captain for the Wigan game, and you could just kind of see that coming at the start of the season. I remember as early as the West Brom game and the Sheffield United game, you could really kind of hear him organising the players, and there was a break in the Sheffield United game. He was the one who was kind of organising the kind of huddle on the sideline. He's got those leadership qualities, but also the defensive qualities as well. I think he's doing really well, and him and Fryer are really building a solid centre-back pairing at the back. Obviously, Lenihan and Matt Clark were both brought in with the intention of playing a free at the back this year. It's now got me thinking, how does Matt Clark even get into this team when he comes back? Because, Fryer and Lenihan have been so solid.
Yeah, and I kind of agree with you. Lenihan's been excellent, hasn't he? And obviously with Force as well. Like, I love Marcus Force. I've started to love him more and more every time I watch him. I said on the last podcast that he's starting to show really good signs, and now that he's 2-2, 3 under Carrick, and he's just finding his feet even more. And when we spoke to Billy from B Side, he said he was the best finisher at Brentford, which is a really big praise to have. And Boro can kind of see that come through, and I want to hope he continues to do it, because it gives Carrick a big decision to make of how we want to approach the window as well. But I do think we were going for a striker, but Force has done nothing wrong for me. Maybe the first half against Blackburn, it could have been a bit better in terms of decision making, but I'm not being picky. Lenihan as well. Again, Tom being brilliant too, and showing that really good defensive qualities that he has. But yeah, be interesting to see what we do if and when Matt Clark comes back, because it has been a bad injury for him, and you never know, we could see him soon. But let's look ahead to Birmingham then, Tom, because Boro travelled to St Andrews to face John Eustace's 16th place Birmingham City. If they win, they go 1 point behind Boro. So 4 points separate Boro in 6th and 16th position. So we spoke to Gab Sutton, the oracle of the EFL football and a Blue Nose fan, to get some insight on Birmingham this season.
Hi there, Boro fans. Hope you enjoyed the festive period. In terms of thoughts of Birmingham's season so far, very solid, much better than expected. Before the season, there was almost a bit of resignation that Blues would be in the relegation dogfight because of various issues in terms of the ownership. There were a lot of protests against the board last season. We weren't quite sure what to expect from John Eustace, and we had a sort of wafer-thin squad. So for us to be where we are, sort of mid-table in this, if there is a mid-table in the Championship, it's actually bonkers, isn't it? But yeah, I think we're really happy with where we are. Well on track to 50 points. I think performances have dropped off a little bit. 1 win in 6 now. We've probably not played as we can since returning from the World Cup break, and I think possibly it's partly because we haven't got too much depth. I think if you look at the bench we had against Hull last night, a couple of them are players who you wouldn't really think are part of our long-term plans if we want to progress within this division. A few of them are sort of academy graduates that are just cutting their cloth. Jordan James came off the bench and made a decent impact, but there's no one that you'd be super tempted to start or be super confident in changing a game. And I think that's part of the challenge that John Eustace is dealing with at the moment. Hopefully he can be sported in January. But yeah, I think there's we definitely need to freshen things up. Hopefully Scott Hogan's going to be back fit. Apparently he's touch and go for this game, so I think that's going to be quite a big one, because Heath Chong has played as a second striker in his absence alongside Troy Deeney, but that hasn't quite worked as we might have hoped. Yeah, in terms of key players, certainly Hogan, if he is fit, would be one to look out for. Austin Trusty on the left of the back three has really impressed me. He's a quick, strong, athletic, left-sided defender, and I think he's had a very good season so far overall. Good ball player as well, so we're really happy with him on loan from Arsenal. We'd love to get him back permanently. So yeah, I think from that point of view, we I think Trusty's one to look out for, possibly Christian Bielik as well. When he was fit for Derby, he was one of the best players in the Championship, and certainly his positional play can be very good will be crucial for us in terms of stopping Boro's attacks. In terms of where the game will be won and lost, I think I've kind of alluded to it a little bit. In the sense that if the game is level going into the second half, I probably think that you might have a better chance of going on to win it. But I think in Isaiah Jones and Ryan Giles, those are the players that would really, really worry me at the moment. For Middlesbrough, I think those are the two sort of main threats. Really impressed with the switches that we've seen under Michael Carrick. Hayden Hackney has come in and done very well. Didn't think he necessarily tore up trees at Scunthorpe, so I probably wasn't expecting him to make the impact that he has. But that looks very nice alongside Johnny Howson, doesn't he? And then I think in terms of prediction, I'm not feeling hugely optimistic, to be honest. The fan in me would want to say we might be able to get a point, but I'm going to probably be a bit more realistic. And I think, the form that you guys have been in, I think it's 6 wins in 9 under Michael Carrick. I'm afraid I'm going to have to fall on my sword a little bit and go 2-0 Middlesbrough.
So 2-0 to the Boro from Gab. And thank you very much for that as well, Gab. He's absolutely super duper. And he's the oracle of the Football League. And if you find any of his stuff on Twitter, you'll be really impressed. Just amazing work from Gab. But Tom, can Boro get a win on the road against Birmingham?
I don't see any reason why not. I think St Andrews is always one of them grounds where I don't like us playing there. I don't know. I always get the feeling that we're going to lose. But then I did at Ewood Park and we won that as well. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put some money on Scott Hogan to score, same way as I did with Sam Gallagher, because I also feel like he loves a goal against us. Hopefully that'll jinx him, and I'm going to go with another 2-1 Boro win.
2-1 Boro win. Another win for Carrick. God, I want us to win, really, really do. Really difficult game. I think John Eustace is doing a good job at Birmingham with everything against him. he's made things really difficult for teams to go there and really get something. But I think I think I'm the same with you as you and Gab. I think we probably have a bit too much this time around, and I think we'll probably win. I'm gonna go with Gab. I'm gonna go 2-0 Boro as well. Would love Force to score again, but we'll see. We will see. But Tom, thank you very much for joining me as always, and to Dana, please, and to everyone at Lazenby, please just try and sort the Wi-Fi cables out. I don't know what's going on at Lazenby at the moment, but connection. I always, when I go to Lazenby, I never get connection. Must be something in Lazenby. I don't know. But anyway, Tom, this is the finishing line for Boro in 2022 with a very promising 2023 ahead. This has been the Boro Breakdown podcast, and that was our Boro Matchday Chatter in a pod. Up the Boro Breakdown.